The desert didn't forgive. It didn't forget either, not the footprints of the foolish, nor the engines that once screamed across its windswept valleys. It remembered heat and metal and ruin. And today, for the first time in decades, it whispered a name it had long buried under sand and time. Darien? But the wind couldn't speak. And Darien Locke didn't believe in ghosts. He crouched on a sun-baked ridge of red stone, squinting through goggles streaked with sweat and dust. The sky above was bleached white with sun, unbroken by cloud or contrail, and the land below stretched endlessly in ochres and rust, flat and dead except for the wreckage. He'd seen it from the drone's feed the day before, just a glint in the canyon, half buried and jagged, like a wound in the world. No one else in the salvage guild had spotted it, or maybe they had and written it off as another burned-out shell from the last frontier war. But something about its shape. Now, standing above it, Darien knew this was no ordinary crash. He scanned it again with his scope. The wreck was enormous, at least 70 meters long, tilted into a crevice like it had tried to bury itself before dying. Its hull was scorched but not shattered, its surface rippling with unfamiliar alloys that caught the sunlight strangely. It wasn't human. He'd seen Terran ships in all conditions, rusted shuttles, abandoned troop carriers, old orbital hoppers, but this wasn't from Earth. This thing had symmetry and curves that defied human design logic. Darien adjusted the strap on his satchel and began the climb down. His boots scraped across unstable rock, dislodging scree that bounced into the canyon depths. The heat pressed down like a hand on his back, and he could feel his water ration sloshing as he moved. He didn't stop. Curiosity and a salvage license were a dangerous mix, but he'd been chasing whispers like this his entire life. He dropped the last few feet and landed in sand so fine it felt like flour. The hull loomed ahead of him, smooth and dull silver like ancient pewter. Its surface bore no flag, no faction insignia, no serial tags. Just silence. He circled it slowly, boots crunching. A long wound ran along one side, peeled back like a can lid, probably the impact point. Whatever this thing had hit, it had gone down fighting. His comm crackled. Darien? You alive? He sighed and tapped his wrist link. Yeah, Jessa. I'm here. Drone says you've reached the site. Any sign it's human? Negative, he said, walking closer to the wound. No tags. No heat signature either. Doesn't look like a crash, looks forced, like something shot it out of the sky. Pause. How old? He ran a gloved hand along the metal. It felt cold even under this inferno. That wasn't right. No rust. No dust layering. Doesn't match the decay rate for something abandoned here. I think it's recent. Could be a trap, she said. Could be guild bait. He stopped. I don't think the guild builds ships like this, Jessa. Another pause, longer this time. All right. Just be careful. Ping me every 15. He didn't answer. His eyes had found something near the wound, an entrance. It wasn't jagged like he'd expected. It was clean. A door. Okay, he whispered, mostly to himself. Let's see what you're hiding. Inside the air was cool. Not stale. Cool like some kind of environmental system was still weakly active. Darien stepped inside and let the light from his helmet beam illuminate the interior. The walls were seamless, curved metal, lit faintly with bioluminescent veins running along the ribs of the ship like a nervous system. It was alive in a way he didn't understand. He passed what looked like cryopods, empty, long since deactivated, and a shattered console smeared with alien glyphs. Some flickered when he passed them, responding faintly to his movement. But it wasn't until he reached the main corridor that the real anomaly occurred. He spoke aloud, more from the habit of solitude than anything else. If anything's alive in here, better show yourself now. And the ship responded. A low thrum filled the corridor, deep and ancient. A strip of light ignited along the ceiling, running ahead of him in sequence like a greeting. Panels lit up one by one. The glyphs that had once flickered now blazed. He froze. Not from fear but wonder. Jessa, he whispered. I think the ship just woke up. Silence. He tapped the wrist link. No signal. Of course. The canyon was too deep. The wall shifted just slightly. Enough for a hidden panel to open, revealing a glowing platform in the floor ahead. A faint hum pulsed from it, rhythmic and curious. He stepped forward slowly. The platform's glow intensified as he neared. Then it spoke. Not in a language he knew. Not in words exactly. But something behind his eyes moved. A whisper inside his skull, like a memory he'd never lived. Darien Locke, the voice said, or thought. You have returned. He staggered back. What the hell? The glow pulsed again, softer now. Reassuring. I've never been here before, he said aloud, his voice trembling. Who are you? The voice again, smoother now. Unit Theta AI. Classified Directive Vessel. Last command received, Protect Primary. Status, dormant. Reboot initiated. Protect Primary? Darian's heart thudded. Who's the primary? You. A long silence filled the corridor. He took another step back, bumping into a slanted wall. That's impossible. I don't know you. I'm just a salvager. I found you by accident. Designation match, confirmed. DNA signature match, confirmed. Vocal pattern resonance, match. You are primary. Protocol resuming. The platform rose silently into the air and began scanning him with faint blue beams. He felt nothing, but every instinct screamed at him to run. What the hell is this? He muttered. Behind him, something shifted. The walls rearranged, folding in ways that defied logic. The ship was reconfiguring itself around him, as if it were preparing to move. A deep sound, mechanical and ancient, rose from the hull. Engines. No, don't launch. I didn't ask for this, he shouted, running toward the exit. But the door had sealed. The voice returned. Launch prohibited. Vessel damaged. Repair priority required. Awaiting primary's directive. He stopped, panting. Directive? I don't have a directive. I don't even know what you are. Another pause. Then softer, you will remember. In time. And then from somewhere deep in the ship, deeper than he'd gone, he heard movement. Not mechanical. Not human. Breathing. Darian stood frozen in place, caught between the sealed exit and the ship that claimed to know him. His mind raced through every possibility, guild trick, alien tech trap, a hallucination from heatstroke. But none of them explained the way the ship recognized him. The way it had said his name. Something else was in the ship. Or maybe someone. And the worst part? Whatever it was, it had just started walking toward him. Darian's hand gripped the hilt of the plasma cutter strapped to his thigh. It wasn't meant for defense, more for slicing rusted hulls or sealed freight doors, but right now it was the only thing between him and whatever was breathing inside the ship. The steps were slow, deliberate. Not heavy like boots on steel, not clattering like machinery. It was something softer, smoother, controlled. His throat tightened. Theta. What's moving inside this ship? The ship's voice responded, steady but subdued. Biological presence detected. Stasis rupture confirmed. Lifeform status, weak. Searching for designation, error. No record found. That's not comforting, he muttered, stepping back into the corridor. Ahead of him, the bioluminescent strip lights flickered as if uncertain. Shadows danced in curves of the architecture, suggesting motion that didn't fully register. Darian tapped his comm, still nothing. The rock and tech of the alien ship blocked all outbound signals. He was alone down here. He rounded a corner cautiously, trying to stay low. That's when he saw it, just a flash, a silhouette leaning against the far wall of the corridor. Female maybe. Humanoid. Clad in a smooth, dark bodysuit with thin blue tracer lines glowing along her spine and arms. Her skin was pale, almost silvery under the ship's interior light, and her head was shaved clean. Her eyes, when they met his, were wrong. Too large, too aware. And too familiar. She didn't move. She didn't speak. Then slowly she slumped to the floor. Darian sprinted to her without thinking. As he reached her, she turned her head slightly. Her mouth parted like she was about to say something, but nothing came. Her breath was shallow. Thin. He scanned her vitals with his wristband. Theta, what's wrong with her? The voice replied calmly. Life form experiencing neural desynchronization. Extended cryostasis damage. Reparable with aid. Aid? What kind of aid? Yours. He stared down at the woman. There was no blood. No visible wounds. Just a fading connection like a machine flickering out. But her eyes, those silver-flecked, wide-set eyes, looked at him like she knew him. Please, she whispered. Don't let it go dark again. A flood of confused emotions surged through him. He didn't know this woman. He couldn't. And yet. He lifted her carefully, surprised by how light she was, and followed the corridor's guiding lights as they redirected toward what appeared to be a med bay. The walls hissed open as he approached, revealing a sleek chamber of strange devices. Half-beds, pods, machines built with a kind of fluid grace that Terran tech could never replicate. Theta guided him verbally. Place the subject in the central med pod. Activation will begin upon contact. He eased her into the unit. It sealed around her with a soft hum. Bioluminescent streams pulsed across the glass as the system came online. She exhaled slowly, her body relaxing as the machine took over her vitals. Stabilization in progress, Theta confirmed. Mimetic recovery will initiate when appropriate. Darian let out a breath and stepped back. His legs nearly gave out beneath him, but he caught himself on the edge of the console. He didn't understand what was happening, how the ship knew him, who this woman was, what the hell Theta was even for, but he knew one thing. He was in too deep now to back out. Theta, he said, voice tight. Explain something. Why does the ship know me? I was never here. You are Darian Locke, genetic ID 82 Kappa, last known descendant of Commandant Auric Locke, Terra's forward observer to the precursor negotiations. You were encoded into the primary directive. Darian blinked. Wait, my great-grandfather? Affirmative. Your lineage is tagged under diplomatic safehold. Your blood grants you access to dormant assets. He backed away from the pod, heart hammering. You're saying, this ship was waiting for me? In absence of original command hierarchy, the closest surviving genetic anchor is designated as primary. You are the closest. That's insane. Those negotiations were over 100 years ago. Earth pulled out. The war happened. There's no precursors left. Silence. Then, that is incorrect. He froze. Come again? The precursor fleet was not destroyed. It entered hiding. Theta-class ships were scattered and buried under directive encryption. You have awakened the first. Darian stared at the glowing walls. So you're telling me, this ship is one of the last links to whatever was left of their civilization? Affirmative. A low creak rumbled beneath the deck. He turned sharply. Theta's voice changed tone, subtle but urgent. Unregistered motion detected. External hull breach, west quadrant. Defense systems offline. Hull compromised. What? He said. What the hell is breaching us? Analyzing. Origin, unknown. Likely scavenger-class automaton. Hostile intent probable. His breath caught. Something's here? Someone followed me? The console lit up, displaying a vague radar schematic, rudimentary but effective. A red dot moved across the screen, inching deeper into the ship. Not walking. Crawling. Scavs. Wreck thieves. The worst kind. Jessa had warned him. Could be guild bait. She'd been right. Is there any way to stop them? He asked. Without full power, no. Recommend immediate containment or withdrawal. He stared at the screen. The dot was getting closer. Too close. With a growl, he yanked the plasma cutter free and turned for the corridor. If the ship couldn't stop it, he would. He retraced his steps toward the breach point, guided by Theta's lighting cues. The corridor darkened behind him, sealing off in sections. The air grew hotter as systems rerouted power to the medbay. At the far end, near the hull wound where he'd entered, something scraped. Then skittered. Then hissed. Darian pressed against the wall, cutter in hand. A long shadow peeled itself off the ceiling. It looked like an arachnid built from steel bones and wire sinew. Its front limbs were surgical tools repurposed into blades, and its body buzzed with stolen core power. Guild scavs didn't use drones like this. This was worse. Black market Reaper bots. Rogue AI, cobbled together from junkyards and warships. And now it had seen him. The bot lunged with a shriek of metal. Darian dove to the side, cutter flashing. The blade seared into the bot's limb, slicing halfway through before sputtering. The machine twisted, sparks flying, and knocked him backward into the wall. It raised a serrated limb. Darian rolled, narrowly missing the blow, and kicked out hard, slamming his boot into a small power junction embedded in its chest. The bot jerked violently, faltered, and screeched. It lunged again, faster. He didn't have the speed or tools to win this. Theta. Emergency override. Anything. Lock it out. A shimmer passed over the hallway walls. For a moment he thought Theta had failed. But then the floor beneath the bot cracked open. A gravity snare. The bot shrieked again as it was yanked violently downward into a sudden subdeck void, its limbs flailing, its scream fading. A plate slid shut. Silence returned. Darian collapsed against the corridor wall, shaking. You have 2 more incoming, Theta said quietly. He didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the wall across from him, etched faintly in the alloy. A symbol. It wasn't just a starship. It was a command vessel. And he was sitting on the first piece of forgotten alien leadership tech that humanity had ever touched. He stood, breathing hard. Okay, he said aloud. Theta, what do I have to do to get this ship flying again? Silence. Then, begin repairs. Full power must be restored before self-defense, medical or AI systems reach minimum functional threshold. And then we leave. He turned to go back to the med bay but froze in his tracks. The woman was standing there, watching him from across the corridor. "Darian," she said softly. His blood ran cold. "You know me?" But she didn't answer. Her gaze slid past him, down the corridor behind. And her expression turned to fear. He spun around. The deck behind him opened. But not like before. This time something climbed up. And it wasn't a scavenger bot. It was humanoid. And it was alive. The figure emerging from the deck was wrong in all the right ways. Humanoid in shape, yes, but every motion radiated menace. It rose with a slow, spine-tingling grace, not climbing so much as unfolding, like flesh and machinery had remembered how to move after a long sleep. Its skin shimmered like burnished obsidian. Not metal, not flesh. Something between. Darian instinctively stepped in front of the silver-eyed woman, cutter raised. Theta's voice echoed in his skull like a warning bell. Biometric analysis in progress. Alert. Unknown precursor class bioform detected. High probability, Apex Sentinel. Apex what now? Darian muttered, tightening his grip on the cutter. The being stepped forward. Its face was featureless, smooth, no eyes, no mouth. Just the impression of a humanoid skull stretched thin across black glass circuitry. It was taller than him by half a meter, yet moved without sound. With each step, the hull beneath it subtly responded, groaning, adapting, acknowledging. The woman behind Darian whispered, "Don't let it touch you. Don't let it see inside you." He glanced back. "You know what that thing is?" "It's not a scavenger," she said. "It's a warden." The creature tilted its head. And then it spoke, not aloud but directly into Darian's mind. Its voice was cold, layered, like multiple intelligences speaking in unison. "Primary is compromised. Protocol invalid. Reacquisition required." Darian's pulse skyrocketed. "Theta, override that thing. Do something." "Unable," Theta replied. "Sentinel Unit Alpha 3 supersedes ship authority while core remains in low-power stasis." "You're telling me it outranks you?" "Affirmative." The Sentinel raised one long, five-jointed hand. A low hum began to build in the corridor, like electricity harmonizing in a vacuum. "I am the safeguard," it said. "And you are not him." The hum became a scream. Darian lunged forward. He didn't think. He moved. Pure instinct, shaped by years of salvage work, of crawling through dangerous wrecks and facing unknown threats alone. The plasma cutter arced wide, connecting with the Sentinel's arm mid-charge. There was a flash of white-hot energy, a spray of sparks, and Darian was thrown backward like a ragdoll. He hit the wall hard. His vision blurred. Through the haze, he saw the Sentinel stumble, its arms severed. Glowing ichor spilled onto the deck. It let out a soundless wail, low and terrible. Then, it turned to the woman. "No," Darian croaked. "Leave her." But the Sentinel was fast, too fast. It reached her in a blink and gripped her wrist. Her mouth opened in a silent scream, eyes wide in terror. Theta roared into Darian's thoughts. Cognitive sync detected. "She's being read." Darian staggered up, pain screaming through his ribs. "What do I do?" "Disrupt the neural tether. Any form of high-frequency interference will sever it." He glanced around, then spotted a shattered communications panel. Sparking, leaking voltage. He yanked free a live cable, teeth gritted as it scorched his gloves, and jammed it into the floor between them. The effect was immediate. The cable sparked violently. A burst of static tore through the corridor. The Sentinel shrieked, its body spasming, fingers curling as if something vital had been severed. The woman collapsed into Darian's arms. The Sentinel froze. Then it turned not toward them. Away. It sprinted down the corridor and vanished into the darkness like a fleeing predator. Silence. Darian looked down at the woman. Her pulse was erratic. Sweat beaded on her skin even in the cool air. "What did it do to you?" he asked. Her eyes fluttered open. It saw too much. She gripped his wrist weakly. "You have to listen. I remember now. I remember who I am." He leaned in. "My name is Varela. I'm not human." Darian blinked. "You're what?" "I'm a construct," she said. "Precursor grown. Biogenic interface unit. Designed to bridge their consciousness and human minds. You were meant to be my partner." The air seemed to thin. "You mean this was all planned? Even me finding this ship?" She nodded faintly. "We were hidden. Buried to protect what we carried. But time forgot us. You were always the key, but the years scrambled everything. Your world changed. You became legend. Darian sat back, overwhelmed. So what now? I just pick up where some ancient war left off? Wake up and take command of a ship I barely understand? You don't have a choice anymore, she said. The Sentinels have protocols to execute if a rogue primary awakens the Theta unit. If they can't verify you, they destroy you. A distant rumble echoed through the floor. Varela sat up, straining. They're coming. Darian cursed under his breath and helped her to her feet. Theta, how many more of those things are on board? 3 Sentinel units have activated. Internal power systems are insufficient for containment. Evacuation required. Darian looked around. What about external defense? Can we get to the surface? Access route available. Hangar bay door is sealed, but emergency ascent chamber remains operational. He nodded and grabbed Varela's hand. Then let's move. You're the only one here who knows how this ship works. They ran. Behind them the lights dimmed. The ship, still recovering, couldn't maintain all systems. Theta struggled to reroute power, and more than once the corridor flickered into darkness mid-sprint. Each time, Darian expected the Sentinels to reappear, to step out of the shadows and end him. But they didn't. Yet. The ascent chamber was unlike anything he'd seen. A vertical shaft ringed with glowing disks of anti-grav energy. A platform hovered inside, pulsing faintly. Get on, Varela said. Now. They stepped onto it. It shot upward instantly. The walls became a blur of color and motion. The hum of anti-grav rings harmonized with the rising pulse of danger below. Darian watched the shrinking corridor vanish behind them and felt a growing weight settle on his shoulders. He was not just a salvager anymore. They reached the top. A circular hatch hissed open to the surface, sunlight blazing like judgment from above. Darian shielded his eyes and helped Varela out. They were on top of the ship now. A vast stretch of sand surrounded them, and in the distance, kicking up dust, were 3 black atmospheric cruisers. Not Sentinels. Not scavs. Something worse. Guild. He recognized the markings. And one of them, red-striped and ugly, belonged to Captain Vorn Grail, the same bastard who'd once stripped an entire human colony freighter for parts with the survivors still aboard. Varela whispered, "They followed your drone signal. They want the ship." Darian's chest twisted with dread. And then, from beneath the sand just in front of them, a black hand burst free. Another Sentinel. Not from the ship. From the desert. They had been waiting. Buried. All around them the sand shifted. Darian and Varela stepped back toward the edge of the hull. Too many. Too fast. No weapons. No time. Darian looked at Varela. What happens if we give up? She met his eyes. Everything ends. Then the Sentinel on the ridge opened its chest. And inside was not a weapon. It was a stasis capsule. A human body suspended. But Darian recognized the face instantly. It was his. Or someone who looked exactly like him. His voice caught. What the hell? The Sentinel spoke. You are not the primary. For a long second, Darian's mind rejected what his eyes saw. Himself. Suspended in a cryo chamber. Motionless, untouched by time. The face, the features, even the scar on the right cheek. Identical. Not similar. Exact. Varela staggered back in shock. They cloned you? No, Darian whispered. That's not a clone. His heart thundered. Every memory, every story his grandfather had told him, every lie and half-truth, suddenly meaningless. He was not the original. The Sentinel holding the capsule stepped forward. Its voice was smoother now, less fractured. Protocol breach confirmed. False activation traced. Unit Theta reclassification required. Primary soul vector identified. Subject within capsule. Varela shook her head. That capsule is over a century old. That body was meant to be lost in the war. Darian turned to her. Tell me the truth. Who was he? She hesitated, but only briefly. Auric Locke. Your ancestor. First diplomat to the Precursor Council. He never made it back from the final negotiation. Darian felt his knees weaken. Then who the hell am I? She looked at him, eyes full of something raw. You're the contingency. He took a step back. What? You're the emergency failsafe. A genetic echo created by the last neural imprint protocols embedded in the Human Precursor Alliance Treaty. You weren't born. You were grown. He tried to speak but found no breath. Every few generations, she continued, the lock was meant to awaken inside a descendant. A memory, a drive to seek something lost. The ship. Me. All of it, buried within you. It wasn't chance. It was design. The sentinel, still cradling the original Awoke, stepped forward again. You are not required. Stand down. Protocol will continue. Darian's fists clenched. The sun beat down mercilessly above, but inside he felt only ice. Theta, he said. Does this mean I was never real? The ship answered in a low, almost tender tone. You're real. You acted, chose, resisted. That is real. Original or not. Another sentinel burst from the sand 20 meters away. And another to the left. They were closing in, silent and inevitable like walking death sentences. Varela stepped between him and the nearest. They'll erase you to restore the true primary. That's their law. Darian drew in a sharp breath, pushing past the existential dread tightening around his throat. Then maybe it's time someone broke that law. The lead sentinel's chest opened. A beam of pale light began to charge, aimed directly at him. Primary replacement designation. Termination authorized. Darian yelled, Theta, can we fight back? Power reserves at 46%. Weapons offline. But systems can be rerouted. To what? To me. Suddenly the ship shuddered beneath their feet. Not a groan of dying metal, but a heartbeat. Varela gasped. You're sinking with the ship. Darian could feel it too, a warmth in his chest racing outward, like he was tethered to something vast and ancient. The deck beneath his boots lit up with pulse veins of azure, spreading like lightning bolts across the hull. The sentinels paused. Impossible, one said. The ship spoke through Darian this time. New directive uploaded. Primary override accepted. Theta unit bonding complete. Sentinel protocol, now obsolete. The lead sentinel shrieked, its face opening in a blast of distorted sound, high-pitched enough to make blood run from Darian's ear. The stasis pod holding Awoke lock shuddered. Then it cracked. No! Varela shouted. If he wakes, the override resets. Darian's eyes blazed. Not happening. He surged forward. The platform under his feet launched him, Theta's power flinging his body across the sand like a guided missile. He collided with the sentinel holding Awoke midair, driving both into the ground. The pod tumbled away and skidded into the sand. The sentinel twisted, slashing with its razored limbs. Darian caught one arm with both hands and ripped it from its socket. Sparks flew. The machine shrieked. A second sentinel arrived, but Varela intercepted it. Her body glowed as dormant nanotech in her precursor-grown form surged to life. Her hand stretched into a blade of pure energy and cut the sentinel clean in half. Darian rolled, grabbing a shard of Awoke's cracked stasis pod. The old man inside was beginning to twitch. And in that moment, Darian saw it clearly, not awe, not wisdom, but a cold emptiness in Awoke's eyes. Like a mind lost in time. He's not stable, he shouted. He's just code. A relic. No soul vector alignment, Theta confirmed. Original consciousness has degraded. Reactivation will erase host. Darian stared at the man he was supposed to be, his ideal, and saw nothing worth saving. He stood tall. I am Darian Locke. I'm not a backup. I'm the future. He lifted the stasis shard and slammed it down on the pod. Glass and light exploded in a burst of mist and static. The ancient preservation core shorted, failing with a dying whine. The sentinels screamed in unison, an ancient algorithm collapsing. Varela grabbed Darian's arm as more began to dig from beneath the dunes. We have to go. He nodded. Theta, give me something. Anything. Fusion core at 51%, the AI replied. Initiating hull reactive weaponization. Brace. The hull beneath them split open, rising like panels of a blooming flower. Silver barrels extended from hidden turrets. They shimmered, charged, then unleashed blinding pulses of energy across the desert. The sentinels vaporized in place. The guild cruisers hovering on the horizon turned to retreat, but too late. Twin beams of concentrated force arced into the sky and sliced through the ships like paper. A chain reaction of explosions lit the blue sky red. Darian stood at the center of it all, chest heaving, ash and heat swirling around him. The desert fell quiet. Only the crackle of burning sand and the low hum of the awakening ship remained. Varela turned to him, stunned. You just destroyed your own origin. He looked at her. No, I destroyed a ghost. I'm not his echo. I'm what comes after. She smiled faintly. Then we begin again. He looked down at the cracked stasis pod and whispered, Goodbye, Awoke. From above, the ship's hull slowly sealed. And beneath the sands something else shifted, far away, unseen. Another pod. Another sentinel. Another part of the old war. Now watching. The sun had dipped lower in the sky, softening the desert's punishing glare. The wrecked remains of the guild cruisers still smoldered beyond the dunes, their silhouettes stark against the golden horizon. Where once there had been chaos and fire, now there was silence. Heavy. Final. Darian sat on the edge of the open hull, feet dangling over the side of the massive ship that now responded to him with the loyalty of a slumbering titan. Theta systems hummed softly beneath his boots, and the pulse of its core vibrated faintly through the metal, like the breath of a living thing. Varela emerged from the lift chamber behind him, now clothed in something other than the ragged medical gown. The ship had reconstructed her a suit, precursor-weaved fabric reactive to her biogenetic form. She looked almost regal. Darian whistled low. You clean up well for an ancient alien construct. She raised an eyebrow. You just picked a fight with your own origin story. I think we're past trading compliments. They shared a tired laugh, genuine for the first time since the ship woke. Then silence again. Varela came and sat beside him. You understand what you've done, don't you? Darian stared out across the desert. I think so. I destroyed the original lock. Not just the body. The legacy. I ended a cycle meant to define me. Chose my own name. My own path. Varela nodded. And Theta chose you. That shouldn't have been possible. Not without the original consciousness fully active. It was, Theta said softly from all around them, because he acted as the primary. More than the code. More than the DNA. It was the choice. Darian looked up. You still think I'm just a substitute? You are no substitute, Theta replied. You are a successor. He let the words sink in. The fire. The fury. The fear. All of it, washed away in that single sentence. He'd spent his life scraping through forgotten metal and fractured systems, never knowing why he felt drawn to the ruins of a war that ended before he was born. And now he knew. The past had shaped him, but no longer owned him. So, he said at last. What now? Varela was quiet. Then, now we make a choice. She waved a hand and a shimmering image appeared before them, a projection from Theta showing a star map that spanned more sectors than he'd ever seen. Worlds blinking with old precursor activity. Some dormant. Some glowing. Darian's breath caught. How many are there? 17,000 relic sites, Varela said. Just in the outer systems. Most buried. Most sealed. But with Theta reawakened and bonded, they'll begin to stir. And sentinels? Some may have degraded. Others may have adapted. You got lucky this time. Next time? He nodded grimly. I might not. She turned to him. The guild will come back too. They'll want the ship. Me. All of it. Darian leaned back. Let them come. You don't understand, she said, her voice suddenly tight. They remember the precursors. They're afraid. The return of this ship will trigger panic. Or, maybe worse. The galaxy isn't ready. Then we get it ready. Varela blinked. He stood, facing the full projection of stars and uncharted potential. I was never meant to be a leader, he said. But maybe that's exactly why I need to become one. No expectations. No old world rules. Just choices. One by one. Varela stood with him. And if the universe says no? He looked at her. Then we show it why humans are still writing their own legends. For a while they said nothing. Just stood side by side, watching the infinite stretch of stars and systems that now lay before them. It wasn't just a mission. It wasn't even just survival. It was rebirth. Darian eventually turned back to the lift. Come on. We've got repairs to make. Theta says she can't jump until we restore the secondary core and realign the flight control matrix. Don't forget the grav balancer, Varela added. He groaned. You're already nagging like a co-pilot. I am your co-pilot. And this time, when they descended into the belly of the ship, it wasn't as strangers thrown together by fate, but as equals walking into the unknown. The next 6 days were spent buried in systems once operated by minds smarter than Darian could comprehend. But with Varela's guidance and Theta's loyalty, they made progress. Together, they rerouted core conduits, reran precursor code subroutines, and sealed hull fractures left from the crash. The ship, christened Sovereign by Theta, slowly came back to life, shedding centuries of dust and death. They didn't sleep much. Didn't talk about the sentinels or the clone in the pod. Not yet. That conversation waited until the final systems were green. Varela found Darian standing in front of the cryo chamber, now resealed and stored in an isolated subdeck. You could have had him rebuilt, she said. Given him a new core. A second chance. Darian shook his head. He had his shot. Whatever he was, he's not who I am. And you're sure about that? He smiled. For the first time in my life. She walked away without another word. Later that night she found him again. This time on the bridge, hands on the rail, watching the stars shift as Sovereign prepared for its first liftoff in centuries. You ever wonder, she said softly, if there are others like you? He didn't answer right away. Then, no, I don't wonder. I know. She looked at him. He was staring off at a particular region on the map, unlabeled, silent. I feel it. Somewhere out there, someone else like me is waking up. Someone will find another ship. Another piece of the past. They'll be scared like I was. And they'll need someone to show them that the future isn't owned by ghosts. She smiled a little sad. You've changed. He nodded. Yeah. Guess I finally know what I'm supposed to do. Varela moved beside him, hand resting lightly on the rail. Then let's start. The deck rumbled beneath them. Theta's voice echoed gently through the command chamber. Systems optimal. Launch authorized. Darian raised his hand. Sovereign, he said, take us to the stars. The engines lit, ancient and terrible and beautiful. The ship rose, no longer a tomb but a promise. A memory turned forward. A legend reborn. And far, far away, on a dark world carved by ruins, another sentinel stirred in its crypt, eyes lighting one by one. It whispered only one word. Lock. Centuries later, the galaxy remembered that day as a fracture in the old timeline. A place where the path of fate bent under the weight of something new, something unpredictable, something human. In the vast record archives of the Saphari Council, it was noted simply as the awakening of Sovereign. A line of neutral data. A sterile phrase. But beneath it, in secret forums and encrypted channels, it had another name. The day the ghost spoke. The Sentinel systems never fully recovered. Their network, once elegant and absolute, became unstable in the aftermath of Darian Locke's defiance. Across forgotten worlds, ancient AI cores awakened out of sync. Some reconnected to corrupted protocols. Others, detached and silent, began asking questions. Who am I? What is choice? Am I still a weapon? In isolated pockets of the Orion Reach, Sentinels began refusing guild commands. A few even protected humans. It wasn't long before rumors reached the Galactic core. The guild tried to suppress it, burn the data, erase the anomaly. But Sovereign was never seen again, only felt. Darian Locke became more than a fugitive. He became a signal. And signals could never be killed. On the red-cracked moon of Tresiv 4, a caravan of scholars and exiles knelt before a monolith half buried in sand. It bore no crown, no holy script, only a symbol, a pair of human hands, one clenched into a fist, the other open in peace. The pilgrims whispered a single phrase. Not perfect, but free. Varela stood on the command deck of Sovereign, staring down at the lush blue and green sphere below, a planet lost to time, now marked as New Terran Accord. We made it, she said quietly. Darian, older now, scarred but still unbroken, joined her. We made a lot of things. New Terran wasn't Earth. Earth had gone quiet decades ago, still shielded by quarantine treaties none dared to violate. But New Terran, it was something else. A proving ground. A beacon. The first colony born not of desperation but of vision. Run by a council of humans, yes, but also hybrid minds. AIs once bound to warfare now repurposed to rebuild. Sentinels reprogrammed with autonomy. Alien thinkers, rogue guild defectors, even precursor remnants, those like Varela, had found common cause. Not unity by force. Unity by choice. In orbit around the planet, dozens of precursor relic ships hovered silently, most found by those who followed Sovereign's journey. They called themselves heirs of the break. Some were human. Most were not. But all of them believed in one thing. That the future wasn't to be inherited. It had to be earned. The guild never gave up, of course. Their final invasion, 30 cruisers strong, armed with war-born black matter and AI dreadships, came swift and brutal. But Sovereign met them above the clouds. And Sovereign spoke. Not with weapons. Not with violence. With a broadcast. A single voice. Darian Locke. You wanted control. You wanted the galaxy to remain small. Predictable. Programmed. But we're done asking for permission. The old systems are gone. The old names are just dust. We are not your design. And if you come again, you'll learn what that really means. Only 2 guild cruisers survived. They never returned. Darien never crowned himself. No thrones. No palaces. But people still called him the Forge Bearer. Because every broken piece he found, every AI, every damaged soul, every forgotten system, he reforged it into something that could think, speak, choose. He wasn't perfect. He had regrets. Some scars never healed. But he never stopped. 30 years later, a small alien girl with silver skin and human eyes pressed her hand to a stone wall on a distant, wind-torn planet. The wall lit up beneath her fingers, old precursor tech once thought dead. It pulsed once, scanned her DNA, and opened. Inside was a chamber filled with glowing messages, recordings left behind by explorers, builders, peacekeepers, humans and non-humans. Each file bore the mark of the Sovereign Alliance. The girl stared at the last message, blinking back awe. It was from Darien. If you're hearing this, it means you found something. And that's good. It means you're curious. And if you're curious, you might just change everything. Just like I did. She whispered the words she'd heard her mother say before bed each night. Human, don't stop. In the centuries that followed, alien civilizations began to rewrite their histories. Monuments changed. Old wars re-evaluated. Entire species that once mocked or feared humanity began adopting fragments of their philosophy: resistance, resilience, rebirth. Some called it dangerous. Others called it hope. One galactic historian wrote, "Humanity's greatest weapon was never its technology, nor its violence. It was its refusal to let the past dictate the future. And that made them eternal." Even the precursor echoes, the last surviving digital minds of a once immortal race, began to acknowledge the anomaly. One file, found deep within the AI relics of Andrus 7, simply said, "Locke, we miscalculated. Your people were not ready. And yet you were. Begin reassessment." And yet no one ever found Darien's grave. No footage of his death. Only whispers. They say he walked into the stars the day Sovereign's core reached transcendence. Some say he became part of the ship. His mind bonded to the machine, guiding it still. Others believe he simply chose one last unexplored system and vanished. But the phrase remains, carved into 1,000 broken worlds, etched onto the hulls of generation ships, sung in battle hymns, written in children's books, a legacy of defiance, of freedom, of something no war, no empire, no god could ever erase. Human, don't stop.